What if the biggest thing holding you back from building a thriving consulting practice isn't your skills or your experience or your expertise, but the way you're thinking about your business? That's what my guest discovered today. When you stop thinking like someone's employee and start thinking like the CEO of your own business, everything changes. Your pricing changes, your client relationships change, your entire approach to business development transforms. My name is AJ Riedel, and this is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with independent consultants who are building to six-figure businesses about what it really takes to build a thriving and profitable consulting practice. Today's guest is Samantha Elizabeth, a human experience consultant and master coach who spent 13 years at a major tech company, surviving 6 layoffs before making the leap to self-employment. And what she shares in this conversation will resonate with every consultant who's ever felt stuck in the feast or famine cycle. Samantha talks about the critical mindset shift from scarcity to abundance and why asking, what can I bring to the table instead of what can I get, completely transforms how prospects respond to you. She also shares why being an introvert is actually a superpower when it comes to networking and building genuine client relationships. If you've been struggling with inconsistent income, if your pipeline feels empty more than full, or if you're just tired of surviving and ready to start thriving, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, I'm honored to have Samantha Elizabeth as my guest. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I start out with this is a new thing that I've been asking recently. I start out with 2 standard questions. The
hmm
first question is, the title of this podcast is called Thriving Through.
Yep.
What does thriving mean to you?
Oh man, I talk to people about this all the time. They're surviving, of course, which is this baseline for everybody. And then there's thriving from there. And that's one thing that I work with because, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, and I work with a lot of people on coaching. So, I mean, this is my definition that I pass on to people, for thriving. So my definition of thriving is that you do have your needs met. And if we could think about like Maslow's self-actualization, what
Mhm.
is the next level up from there? It doesn't have to be self-actualization because that's
The top of the,
hard for
yeah,
people to achieve, right? But
right.
what is, that where you're thriving, you're giving back, you are adding value, to not only your life, but other people's lives. And I think it's just that when you think about it, there's that foundation, and, there's those tiers up from there. The more you get higher up, the more that you're thriving and the more that you're able to give to other people. So I'm going to say that's what it is. That's what thriving is to me. It's abundance, it's all of those, kind of things that really help you to contribute to the world, which is very important to me.
I love that definition because it's some you can you can look at it from a kind of a inner selfish of what it means to thrive from an
Right.
emotional mental standpoint,
Yeah.
but I love your definition of thriving as you have enough inside, you're filled up enough that you can give back to the world in whatever way you were meant to give back to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, like, take care of yourself first, because you cannot give to other people unless you take care of what you need first. And then also your wants too, me, because that really fulfills you and helps you to be able to give in abundance, to other people. So I gotta say, I mean, that's one thing is do take care of yourself, do that self-care, do all of those things so you can thrive.
Of it. Second question.
hmm
Was your path to becoming a self-employed consultant and coach?
Oh man, it is a long, twisty road. I'm going to tell you. So, I mean, just a little background on me. I've been working since I was 12 years old. Started off in the family business. It was legal, to be able to work at 12 years old, in California. That's the legal age that you can work for a family business. So I started working for a family business. And then, once I was able to, I got a real job. And this is at 14 and a half. And then I worked in all sorts of customer service type of positions. I worked at a restaurant, I worked at a department store, I even worked in elderly care. And right before that, child care. So it was a huge contrast, but much of the same. And that's when I decided to kind of get serious about my career and really go into how how can I utilize the skills? And, I've got a lot of customer service skills. Of course, at that time, I had a lot of understanding different environments. So I actually started working for a large technology company and I worked for them for 13 years. And when you're a high performer with this particular company, you can do anything that you want, really. And so I did so many different things, learning and development, all of that kind of stuff. So when and I had been through, I want to say 6 layoffs with that company, and I was a survivor, and I kept surviving. But also surviving in that particular company too means that you get handed your papers. And they say, but since you're we're eliminating your role, oh, here comes the cat. Um, when we're eliminating your role, but since you're such a high performer, see, there's the cat, here's my dog. Um, they say we have other roles for you because we want you to stay with, sorry about that. We want you to stay with the company. And so that was something that was always afforded to me. And so when I got laid off, and this was in 2016, so it was 10 years ago, and I can't believe it's been 10 years already. But when I got laid off from there, they also offered me a couple of other roles and said, do you want to take these roles? And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to get off this bucking bronco. I am just going to go ahead and go do something different. I really want to, and it's not because I wasn't contributing and, helping people and, really bringing positivity, in the company, but I wanted to do something bigger. So I went and worked for a nonprofit. And part of working for that nonprofit is really kind of sacrificing a lot of your time, a lot of your own resources to be able to contribute to that mission. And I really discovered what it really meant is, working for, a for-profit technology company to a nonprofit that is local, that cared about the community, that really got out there into the community. And that was so fulfilling. And then since then, it was just kind of like it had been a roller coaster. From that, I mean, they went through layoffs. I survived those. I decided ultimately to leave, went and worked for another company and layoffs. I mean, every single company that I went to, it was just layoff city. It was frustrating. And even if I survived, that also meant that I took on 4 additional roles, on top of
Mhm.
that. And I'm not saying, I mean, this is something that I work with companies on is how to do layoffs well. Because
Most
that,
companies don't.
yeah, I mean, because in my career, and I had been, in corporate for 25 years, in my career, I had been through 11 layoffs.
Oh
And that
man.
is a lot. And whether I survived the layoff or got affected by the layoff. And it was devastating, that when I would go work for a company, and a lot of times, like I worked for a couple of like very budding companies, and they're really priding themselves in never doing layoffs, never having to downsize in any way. And this one company that I work for, they had been in business for 7 years. And all of a sudden they were like, we're doing layoffs. And I was
Oh,
affected by it. And that was very devastating for me. What I did immediately, and this is what I did immediately after I got laid off from that large technology company, is I went into, okay, what can I do for myself, to be able to figure out, get my online presence correct, get my networking opportunities face to face with people, what type of associations or even learnings, that I can explore. So when I got laid off from this company, and that was in 2023, so just only 3 years ago, I sat down because it was me and my whole team that got laid off. And I had four people working for me, five people actually, but four of them got laid off. One didn't. And so I sat down with them and I said, guys, I have been through this several times before. And for them, they are early in their careers. They've never dealt with something like that, being laid off from a company and having that untethered feeling. So I really sat down with them and said, this is everything that I've learned, in my whole career. This is how to build a resume and, to do your cover letter and, what does it look like to network and, how do you actually get interviews with companies? Because that's hard too. All of that kind of stuff. So for a month straight, I sat down and worked on their resumes, did all of that with them. I was coaching them, at that time, of course, because I
Mhm.
am a coach, I do help people. And, early in my coaching type of venture, if you will, did it for fun, which is so funny, like work for fun. But, that I did career development type of coaching. Actually, for the large technology company, I built their career development program, or career coaching program, as we called it. Whereas where we helped people to be able to basically interview within the company and be able to um, further their career, help them, in their mindsets, all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what led me to that. When I got laid off from that company in 2023, I started working for another company right away. I was doing what I love, which is employee experience. And that had been an even tone for me my whole 25-year corporate life, is that I worked in employee experience and client experience too, because of my customer service background. So that was something that I found when I started working for this company, that I was like, absolutely, we're going to do all of these things, these wonderful things. And guess what? They went through layoffs. So
Oh
I was
no.
like, oh my gosh, am I the person that causes this? Like, like when I
Yeah, it's
joined the
like you come
company.
to a company, they're going to have layoffs.
Right, exactly. And it was one of those things that unfortunately, they did not do layoffs right, and it caused a lot of, I hate to say it, but there was a lot of legality, to the layoffs, or legal issues, to the layoffs that they did. And oh my gosh, that made me feel like, okay, I've been through 11 layoffs and I really want to help other companies, to be able to do that. But that is just one aspect of employee experience. And then also, client experience because they're related. I want to, be able to do that. So that's what brought me to it, is that, going through, that that last company that I worked for, and I what did I do right away? The normal thing that I do, after layoffs is that I update my resume. I go out there. I've got a whole spreadsheet of all these companies that I want to look at, that I want to interview with. I start making my rounds, reach out to my network, start meeting with people, do learning, all of that kind of stuff. And I was jamming for about a month and a half. Getting interviews, got down to final interviews with a couple of companies. And then I woke up one morning and I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why do I want to keep jumping on that rodeo horse? I like, why do I
Mhm.
keep wanting to do this to myself where I'm not being totally fulfilled and I'm not able to give everything that I've got when I go to work for a company, because they determine my work. They put up some red tape, for me. And being an employee experience, that was something that was hard for me because I'm trying to help the employees. I'm trying to help people be happier at work. And I always had my hands tied, when it came to that, where I was trying to do big things to be able to change their experience. But I found that, like, sometimes there's those minor things. So when I woke up that one morning, and I sat there at my computer looking at all of the interviews that I had lined up, I thought, why am I not investing my time and energy into myself and my own business? I already had a coaching business, at that time. And that's when I decided, Samantha Elizabeth, coaching and consulting, adding consulting to my business because of like, I've been doing this for 25 years. I think at this point, I might be an expert. I'm not sure, after 25
Hmm.
years, right? But and those are the kind of things that you ask yourself, like, can I actually do this? And I'm like, hold on one second. I've got project management experience. Check. Program management. Yep, yep, yep. And I'm thinking, well, I feel like I've got all this, I've got people skill. I mean, like I've got all of the things to be able to start my own business. So I know, and that's a really long story, but I think that some people can probably identify that,
And
especially if they've been in a roller coaster on their career like I had.
yeah. So you had that thought one morning.
Yep.
Tell me what you did next.
Well, the first thing that I did, I mean, because I already had my coaching business, but the thing is that I was doing my coaching business pro bono, meaning that I did not charge anybody for my coaching services. I did all the coaching for free. And in fact, when people would come to me and say, I will give you money to coach me, I say, no, 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 no. Because I had a 9 to 5 job. I didn't need the money to coach people. I wanted to do it because I saw people struggling, and this is my thing. I see people struggling and I want to help. What can I give them out of my knowledge or my own resources or anything like that? I mean, that's what I wanted. So when I already had my coaching business and I added, consulting to that, of course, I was like, what's the branding look like, and all that kind of stuff. I think that, I mean, and I'm not going to say I did everything right. Let me just say, because it's going to be 2 years now, because I started in 2024. But I'm going to say that the first thing that I did is started thinking about branding, and I started to think about what would my product or service actually look like? And so it kind of started from there. And now when I work with people, though, I ask them to start at their mission, vision, and values. And, like what do they bring to the table and all that kind of stuff? Because I think that, like, that's something, if you nail that down, then everything else kind of falls into place, or at least it gets aligned, to that a lot better.
Hmm.
But I mean, I did a lot of dabbling. And I think that's something for a lot of people. When you have your own business, you do a lot of dabbling. You got an idea and you might run into that direction, shiny object syndrome, and you might like run down one rabbit hole, or, you might choose, or you might like be too broad, too. And that's another thing, when people are like, well, like when people ask, like, who's your ideal or who's your target audience, right? And you say anybody and everybody. Like you just like you want to you
You
want to
want to help
say like,
everybody, and you can help everybody.
right. And like, and that's a problem too, because if you don't know who specifically you're talking to in your marketing, then you are going to not attract anybody. And that's the thing where they always say, like, if you're friends to everybody, you're friends to nobody. And so it's the same kind of thing like in marketing. If you are not talking to the audience that you want to attract, then you certainly are going to not attract anybody. But I was really lucky though. When I decided and I, put it out online, I'm starting my own business in Samantha Elizabeth Coaching and Consulting. I already had SamanthaElizabeth.com, and I was like, I'm just going to add my consulting to there. And so that was, something that when I said that, I was so lucky. There's people who are like, I want to coach with you and I want to pay you. And I'm like, awesome. And then I also had this huge contract actually fall into my lap. And it was wonderful. It was a government contract, though. And this is in 2024. So I'm not going to get political, but in 2025, unfortunately, those contracts got canceled. Like all of them were put on hold, got canceled, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say that 2024, February 2024, when all of the contracts got canceled, and there goes my big client, that I had, that's when I was like, well, shoot, now I got to rely on myself and not rely on something that's just going to fall into my lap. So, geez, Louise, you know what I'm going to need to do? I'm like, I'm great at marketing, but there's a difference between marketing and sales. So you can attract people and people will be like, yes, I want to talk to you more to work with you. But that's when you got to put on the sales hat, because, and not the sleazy sales hat where you're like, just buy my stuff, like you want to get into that mode that you are going to confidently put out the offer and it's going to be a great offer for them. And do you need to tailor it? Like what is that going to look like? And you got to confidently put that out there. And you got to realize that there's going to be rejection. Of course, not 100% of the people are going to say yes, absolutely. Um, but that's something that like putting it confidently out there and not like in the beginning of my coaching career where I was like, no, 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 I just want to help you for free. I realized that I had to not do that. I had to confidently put out the offer and say, this is what it is, and then, like go hide, for a little bit because you're just like, are they going to say yes? Are they going to say no? And a lot of times they're going to say no, because they might think your price too high. They might think that your price too low and therefore you're not going to add the value. You got to like strike it. And it's like, I know it's hard, because there's certain clients that, and I know because I help people that are struggling. Like, so I know that they don't have a lot of money for me, but I can't give away everything for free. I
Mhm.
can't spend 40 hours a week working with a particular client for free, all the time. And so I think that's the hard thing is being comfortable with saying like, yes, I am here to help people, but I also need to be compensated for my time. And that was a struggle for me because I'm just so used to just giving away my time and skills and knowledge and energy and resources, like everything, to help somebody. And to go from that to the mindset that I'm working for money,
Right, right.
it's
That you
like,
and that you deserve to charge for what this. I mean, that would to me that sounds like it had to have been a pretty huge
whew,
mindset shift for you.
yep. Yeah. And when I coach with people, mindset shift is and you see like my logo. Um, there's four quadrants to it. And the first thing is, and this is in coaching, I do health coaching. So I do mindset. That's the top thing. But a lot of times when people think about like losing weight or getting healthy and everything, they think about their fitness and nutrition. And yeah, those are elements too. But I also have like environments, like what is around you, that is going to hurt or to be able to heal you too. And so those are the kind of things that I look at, but mindset is the number one thing up there. And I realized, for myself and coaching myself kind of through the process, but then also getting additional help too. There's other people that I know that struggle as well. So kind of leaning on each other, is super helpful. Finding people that can help to elevate you, talk about you positively when you're not there. you know, that's,
Mhm.
one thing is, help, getting ambassadors. And this is something I work with my consulting clients on is getting ambassadors, for your company. People are going to talk about your company, your product, your service, whatever it is behind your back in a good way. And so those are the kind of things that I was looking at too, is that how can I change my mindset from being the paid employee to the CEO of my own company? And
Mhm.
that is, something of a mindset shift when you are so used to working for somebody and getting a guaranteed paycheck, not guaranteed obviously if you get laid off, but like getting that expected because you have an employment contract with somebody. And that is something that you do not have an employment contract unless you have retainer type of clients, people that pay you on a regular basis that agree upon it for a certain amount of time. Those are the kind of things that, you're of course looking for is to kind of get that guarantee. But no, it's a roller coaster. It's up and down. I mean, there's some months that I'm just out there networking, 24/7, it seems like. Um, and then there's times that I'm like, I'm actually getting work, great, and so it does ebb and flow, and so those are the kind of things that I think that people have to realize is that it's a little bit of a roller coaster, when it comes to it. But if you think about like people that start businesses and that have hundreds or thousands of employees too, it does go up and down for them. Now, the employee, like, doesn't really see it, because they're getting a paycheck, but the business owner might see it, and they might see, gosh, I'm worried about how to make payroll this month, and so that's something that you got to realize, when that you start your own business. And I know I have lots of friends that come to me that say, I'm thinking about starting my own business. And I'm like, I'm let me help you realize, that it's not for the faint of heart. That's for sure. Like you have
Yes.
to be strong and you have to be open-minded and you have to think, like I said, like a CEO of your own company. And that's hard for people to do. A CEO of your own life, too. You got to
Mhm.
realize that the choices that you make are going to lead you down to a good path, or no, they might, lead down to a dead end. And you got to realize, that about your business. But anyway, long answer, but hopefully that was helpful for other people.
Yes. So you talked about a couple things.
Mhm.
Who is, tell me, who is your ideal client?
It's a
You've got
wonderful question. Everybody, no, I'm just joking. Um,
everybody? Eh, eh.
yeah, now I
Do not
know.
pass go.
I know. No. And the funny thing is when I first started off in consulting, that's what I would say. I would say any company of any size at any industry. And okay, I'm going to say this, employee experience, client experience is very much like that. Everybody has employees. Well, most companies have employees.
Mhm.
But most companies have clients or customers or patients or whatever, it is. And it is all related. And everything that I do is can be for any company of any size of any industry. It's a given. I've worked for companies that have 6 employees all the way up to 350,000 employees. So you tell me, and lots of different industries. I've worked in technology and I've worked in insurance brokers. I've worked in obviously nonprofits, like I said,
Mhm.
um, oil and gas, all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I can do it, for that, but I had to refine it because I know I'm not going to attract anybody. So, because I am a health coach as well too, I do work with a lot of health and wellness type of companies. Doctors I work with, all sorts of, I'm working with a orthopedic network right now. And they have been absolutely wonderful, but and this is the funny thing, experience is very broad. And it's one of those things that I've just gained a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge over the years. But I always kind of boil it down to the people relationships. And I call it people, processes, and tools. And I break it down to process too. So is that smooth process for the experience and then also the technology. So anyway, I'm going to say that this orthopedic network that I'm working with them on system implementation and changing their processes, to be able to better serve their patients. So I got to say, there's that, but then there's also, and I have found this kind of like my bread and butter a little bit, is actually working with people to start their own business and to
Mm.
lay a great foundation. So that way their clients, customers, or whatever they want to call them, and also their future employees have a great experience. And so it's foundational things for businesses, and that's marketing, operations, finances, all of that kind of stuff, because that's everything that I've learned in starting my business. And I am one of those people that when I have knowledge or skills or anything like that, and if somebody needs them or wants them, absolutely, I'm right there with you. So, and I will be more than happy to share everything that I've learned, give away my tools, that I have too, because that's something that is also important to me because this is how I see it. Success is not it's infinite. It's not
Mhm.
finite at all. Like everybody could have success And so I don't feel like, oh, that other person's a coach or that other person's a business consultant. So therefore they're my competition. I better keep all of my stuff a secret. I don't believe that at all. I believe that the success pie is infinite. Like everybody could have a slice of pie. And so when I see somebody that is starting their business or that is maybe struggling too. If they've been at it for a couple of years and they're not really making the headway, I really want to go in there and help them too and say, hey, this is what I learned, that might be helpful for you to be able to really establish yourself. I've been told that I'm like highly organized, I'm highly thorough. I just want to make sure that other people think in that way too, because you have to when you have your own business. You have to think thoroughly and organized and all of that kind of stuff. And it's really hard for a lot of people.
It sounds like you're kind of going two different directions. You've got your healthcare, your
Mhm.
employee, customer, client experience, and then you've
Yep.
got this helping startups, helping people start their business. Two vastly different businesses. I mean, how do you how do you juggle both and is one more lucrative than the other?
Well, if you remember, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And so if you think about it as an individual, you've got to have that baseline safety, is the first thing of getting your needs met, that you have food and water and all that kind of stuff. I find in working with a lot of companies that experience or great experiences happen if you have a great foundation. And working with some companies and going in there and they're like, well, I want, more customers or, why are my employees complaining? All of that kind of things where they see symptoms and not the root cause of things. And so that's when I discovered they need a better foundation. Like they don't have their stuff down. Like they
Yeah,
don't, they
their
need,
foundation's cracked.
right,
They didn't
exactly.
ever establish that solid foundation to begin with.
Right. Yeah. So if you think about that pyramid of like that basic needs, they don't even have their basic needs met before they can actually build a great experience. So a great foundation. So I see them as one and the same. A
Hmm.
lot of times
Okay.
people come to me because they want more clients. And I'm like, awesome. Let's take a look at your foundation first and make sure that it's something that you can actually build in that pyramid until you get to your business's self-actualization. So that's, something that I help them to do. So I do see it as a very foundational thing before you can actually create a great experience. But, that is something that I actually, I mean, like I really see it one and the same. And I want to help people to be able to attract customers or clients, whatever they call them. I do want them to attract great partners as well, within businesses too, people that are going to help elevate them, vendors, that make sense for them, all of that kind of stuff. And you cannot do that unless you have a great foundation. And then you are building your experience for them. So we're going to see this as like foundational is what I help people with to be able to create that experience. Now, once they got that great foundation, let's work on experience, and, be able to make sure that that looks good for whatever human is interacting with their company.
I want to go back to February a year ago when you had that nice contract. You
Yep.
could breathe because you had reliable income coming in and
Hmm.
it got canceled.
Yep.
How quickly were you able to get other money coming in? How did you cope with that contract cancellation?
It brought me back to 2016 when I got laid off from that large technology company. And my mind went through a loop. I mean, I just got to the defeat, like I was so defeated, because like in actuality, I thought I was going to retire with that company. I was young, but I still had that mindset, like longevity, with a company that I'm going to be with this company for the rest of my life or career or whatever. So when that happened and I got the contract and I got everything kind of like taken out from underneath me, what I did in 2016 was not anything different that I did last year. And then I became a yes person again. So the thing is that when an opportunity came up, even if it wasn't directly aligned, and it's not because I wanted to go in like a million different directions or anything. It's because I wanted to see what's my next step and what feels right. And sometimes you just have to say yes to certain things. Um, and that's something that happened to me. Like in 2016, I randomly came across a post for a social media conference. And I'm like, well, I kind of use social media myself. And when I went to that conference, I met so many different people that worked in nonprofits, which helped me get that nonprofit job, but that also had their own businesses too. And they were doing their own marketing, their own social media. There was people that worked in social media. And that really kind of gave me that like that thought. And that's the reason why I really went into coaching, after that too, is that that was my business, my passion business, my side hustle, the thing that was going to that I was going to continue to go in. But that's something that when that happened, I became a yes person again. And I really got out there, to explore. I think at those times you really need to open yourself up. You need to open yourself up to opportunity and yes, direct yourself. Like don't go wherever the water flows or anything like that. But do let yourself to be taken by the current, if you will, every once in a while, but gain your footing again too. It's just helpful for you to figure out what does the universe want from me now, or like
Mhm.
what, where is it taking me now? Because when, and I'm gonna say, when one door closes, a window opens, or another door opens, or whatever it is, because there's gotta be that time that you have to just kind of give in to whatever's happening and not fight it. Because if you're gonna
Mhm.
fight it, my goodness, that's a lot of stress. So that's something that I saw is just become a yes person sometimes. And that's okay.
So you became a yes person,
Yep.
and what kinds of opportunities came your way?
Man, well, I mean, and that's when I really started to see that the things that I was doing in employee experience and client experience consulting, that's when I started to see the cracks in some people's businesses. So that's when I actually started working with people on their businesses. And part of that was everything that I had learned, from my business. And actually, I have a lot of friends. I'm going to say they're friends now. At the time, they were just acquaintances, the people that I met through networking events. But, those are the kind of things that I saw that where people struggle. So, that was something that, becoming a yes person of saying, I'm going to help out this business. And, I'm going to help them to figure out like what are the major issues. And if they want to hire me to solve those issues, awesome. If not, at least I kind of gave them a leg up on, what to do to be able to do that. So that was one path that I was not expecting. But then it like started to make sense because it's like that foundational thing, from there. So doing that, but then also saying yes to, and I'm going to say this, and I know a lot of people are like, what? But I'm an introvert. Um, and I know people are like, but you're so outgoing and everything like that. But I'm like, no, it's where you get your energy from. And I do not get
Fellow
my
introvert.
energy. Right.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
get my
Just
energy
some.
from large crowds. I mean,
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, those are so draining, type of events like networking events and everything. But unfortunately, you do have to force yourself to be an extrovert. And, part of that is like quite draining. So it's one of those things that like, yes, you have to get out and like, be an extrovert and everything and go. So I started saying yes to networking events, that I normally would be like, I don't know about that one. But absolutely. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know. And it might not be somebody that might help you, but it might help somebody that you know in the future that all of a sudden you're like, oh, I know somebody that actually does that. I know somebody that's really good at websites or, that sort of, that's not my forte, but the thing is that it's not, I mean, it's like who you know and who you can connect people to be able to help them in their lives. And that's the important thing is being able to help people. And I mean, and that's my life's purpose is to help people and to give them the knowledge and skills and resources that I have that will help them. And so that's, the main thing is just that when you become a yes person, definitely be open to opportunities and for yourself or for others, see the connections that you can make. And those are going to be the main things because it's not process or technology that is going to help win you your what you need or want in life. It's people. It's the connections that you can make and the ways that you can actually help them. And yeah, they can help you too. But I'm gonna say, like, don't go into a relationship thinking, what can I get from this person? You know, you want to
Mhm.
go in there to think, how can we partner together and collaborate and how can we help each other out? And that's very important when it comes to networking. So that's what I did, is discovered a new layer, which was actually an underlayer, if you will, to the work that I was doing, but then also just forcing myself to be more of an extrovert and really get out there and make more connections with people.
Is networking your primary lead generation tool?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I didn't think it was going to be, honestly. I thought, man, I have great content and I put it out there on social media and people are like, I like this, all of that kind of stuff. I thought that's what it was going to be is my own vulnerability and what I give, in my coaching and, on my Stress Mess podcast, the podcast that I have. That's something that I thought, well, there's a push and pull, I'm gonna say the one thing is you push content out there. When I'm talking about content is I'm talking about like social media, you make posts on there. It might be educational purposes. It might be thought leadership. There might be several different things that you're giving online, but a lot of it has a call to action, a CTA. And that call to action is like, hey, message me if you want to work with me. Hey, buy this program that I'm offering. All of these different things that you might have as a call to action. And, those are kind of things is that like you push things out there and you expect people to just gobble up and say, yes, I want to work with you. That doesn't always happen.
It rarely
You know,
happens, in fact.
right. Like there might be some looksy-loos, if you will, of people looking at your content all the time and saying, I think I want to work with that person, but they're not quite sold. And there's nothing that you really can put out online that really 100% make people say yes, like because everybody, and I studied psychology, that everybody's psychology is a little different. And so, even if you are targeting your specific audience, so unfortunately, for people that are introverts like me, you need to get out there. So you need to do more polling yourself. You can't expect the push of your content to pull people in. Like you need to go out there and actually pull yourself. And you need to be confident in what you're offering. You need to be clear about what you're offering too. And you just, and this is going to say this, don't go out there thinking, what can I get from everybody? But rather what can I bring to the table? And so that's something very important. I am so sorry, my phone's ringing. But that's something very important is that, you got to think about like, what can I bring to the table? How can I help to make these other connections? And then also, how can I genuinely build relationships? I see people like in networking events and everything just walk around and go, hey, hi, 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 here's my business card. And they like hop around to one person to the other, but they don't actually sit and have a conversation with anybody. They
Well,
don't,
that's one of the skills that you have. That's one of the hidden super secret but sauce of introverts is
right.
that when you go, it may be like pulling teeth to get to an event, but you're not there for the hi, how are you chit chat. You're there to really make a connection. And,
Yep.
it's the skill of an introvert that extroverts don't necessarily have. It
True.
doesn't
I'm
come
not
naturally.
Yeah, I'm not going to events to say, look at me. It's the same thing with online content too. I mean, a lot of people think that they can just put the look at me type of content out there, and then people are going to be like, yes, absolutely. But there is that bit of that you actually have to genuinely, and I gotta say, some of my best friends, my besties, are people that I met at a networking event. And, now we just hang out all the time and we help each other out with our businesses, but it's become more of a friendship than a working relationship. And so those are the kind of things that I love that. I love making actual genuine connections with people and genuinely helping them and where they are. I mean, and that's so super important, to do. But
It
I
is.
know I've said a lot.
Well, and we are nearing the end, so I have two more kind of wrap up questions.
Sure. I'll be
What
brief.
what is one book, podcast, or resource that has been most valuable to you in building your consulting practice?
Oh my gosh. This is hard because there's been so many. And I got to say that because I'm one of those people that likes to go out there and learn and research and everything, and then take bits and pieces of what works for me from that. But I got to say that, and I talked about being the CEO of your own business. I didn't, that's not my idea. Okay. That actually comes from James Wedmore.
Oh,
He does
yes,
this. Yeah. He
the
is.
digital CEO.
Ooh, he's the digital CEO. Yeah, I know. And
And
so he
so are
does
we.
this. Yeah, he does this course every year called Rise of the Digital CEO. He only offers it once per year. It's free. You get into it, like you learn. Obviously, like he offers the mastermind after that, of like, do you want to join the club, basically, for him. And he offers so many resources. He and I we're kindred spirits, for sure, because he offers so much to people for free, and it's all valuable. It's not like, oh, it's free, it is like I eat up everything that he puts out because he's just, I mean, then also like you just not that I know him or anything like that. And lots of trainings and everything, but it's just one of those things that you just I recognize me in him, a
Yeah,
lot.
right.
If you yeah.
I love Rise of the Digital CEO. It comes, I think he does it in like it should be coming up soon. It's
I
probably
know.
April.
I was thinking
And it
about it. I'm
is,
like, I gotta start advertising for that for people that start their own business because it helped me. That was a good mindset shift for me. It wasn't all of my mindset shift, but it certainly helped with my mindset shift quite a bit.
yeah, absolutely. And the last and most important question, if people want to find out more about you and your business,
Mhm.
where's the best place for them to find you?
Oh my gosh, this is so easy because everything is linked to it. It's my website, samanthaelizabeth.com. It's my name, so
Hmm.
samanthaelizabeth.com. That's where you're going to find my resources for my coaching, for my consulting side of the business, my contact information of how to get a hold of me, all my socials too. So if you just want to be a look-see-loo and go out there to my socials and see what I have out there, please do. I would love for you to do that. And hey, don't be one of those people though that looks at content and goes, you know, like reach out to me. Let's have a conversation because I genuinely want to get to know people. And even if you decide not to work with me in the end, that's okay. We've made a connection. We figured out some way to help each other. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. So, SamanthaElizabeth.com.
Wonderful. Well, Samantha Elizabeth, thank you so much for being a guest on the Thriving Through podcast. And for those of you listening or watching, until next time, keep thriving through. There's something powerful about what Samantha shared in this conversation. It's not just about networking better or pricing higher. It's about a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your business. When you start thinking like the CEO of your consulting practice instead of someone's employee, you make different decisions. You show up differently in networking situations. You have different conversations with prospects. And you build a business that actually works for you instead of one where you're just surviving. If you're ready to make that shift from scarcity to abundance, from surviving to thriving, I encourage you to connect with Samantha. Visit her website at samanthaelizabeth.com. to learn more about her coaching and consulting services and connect with her on LinkedIn. And check out James Wedmore, Rise of the Digital CEO training that Samantha mentioned. It's a free resource that might just be catalyst to your own mindset shift. I've attend the Rise of the Digital CEO every single year, and I highly recommend it. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Share it with another consultant who needs to hear this message. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Thriving Through wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next time, keep thriving through.